Shanti. So this is from someone who is called Avyakt Bapdada. So Avyakt Bapdada, I told you about the subtle form, right? You have a physical form, a subtle form, and an incorporeal form. So the subtle form of Brahma, who is the instrument for incorporeal God to talk, and so through this subtle form, who talks through a medium, who has since then also gone. So this was on 2nd November 1987. So this was an extremely deep and subtle murli. Murli means like a discourse. And it is mainly about Mehsusta ki Shakti, the power to feel the distinction between right and wrong by vibration. So vibration is like resonance. In music, before the orchestra plays, they must tune up. And they tune to an A, and then everybody goes under the direction of the conductor. That's a particular resonance. When the resonance is out of harmony, then it becomes dissonance. When we allow any negative feeling or anything, then we introduce dissonance into our resonance. So then it doesn't function well. So we need to use this Mehsusta ki Shakti to feel and notice that I am tuned to the source. So this is our practice. This was translated as realization, because all this material is in Hindi, but Mehsusta ki Shakti is something that takes place intuitively in your mind to alert you to something very subtle that is real, but which ordinarily you do not perceive. Don't notice it. When you're well tuned, you'll feel it. So Mehsusta ki Shakti is a highly refined and reliable conscience. So your conscience is an instrument that can tell if something's right or it's not right, or if someone is right or not right, like that. You need to increase this capacity. Mehsusta ki Shakti means to feel. It does not refer to feeling emotions or anything tangible, but the power of the mind to feel or detect very subtle truths and to see the very fine line between what is right and what is wrong. Mehsusta ki Shakti precedes experience. So experience is quite tangible, but before you have a tangible experience, there's something else that is much more intangible. But when you can feel well, then you feel that thing before you feel the actual experience. So when you detect that, you need to acknowledge in yourself that there is something. An ordinary person will say there's nothing there, but there is something there. So experience is more tangible. When you have understood what the experience means, then that would be called realization. So you have this very subtle feeling, then you have experience, then you have the understanding what the experience means or implies. So realization is a word that applies to the intellect. You processed it, you have recognized what it means, and you have given it, you have assigned it a value, a meaning, something like this. So this applies to the intellect, not to the mind. He is talking about the mind in this Murli. And most people interpret it as the intellect. And people can understand what the intellect is much more easily than they can understand what the mind is, because it's like intelligence, calculation, processing. But the mind is very, very subtle. The expression honest heart really means true heart. So is your heart true? So look at your heart, and it's to do with your motivations. It's to do with if you are real or not. If you are trying to hide something, if you are two-faced or not, these type of things. So why are you doing what you're doing? If you are not true, you keep something aside in case it's not true, like backup, something like that. But a true means you can just go for it. When the soul is pure and the heart is true, then Mehsusta ki Shakti, the power to feel, gets stronger. So if you're dishonest soul, you will not be able to develop this Mehsusta ki Shakti. So to be honest, to be real, you need incredible courage. Avyakt Bapdada wants us to be completely true in order to be able to feel these things. Now another word, Parivartan. The word Parivartan is translated as transformation. So self-transformation, a word we often use and often hear, but it may not be the most appropriate word to use. So this word Parivartan, if you check in the dictionaries, has about 40 different meanings. That's quite a lot. So what does it mean here? So in this case, it means reconstructing or restoring the self to its original perfect condition. So we have become corrupted by the effect of time and by the effect of doing activities that are against our conscience, small or big. So we are not anymore in the original condition. Here we want to return ourselves to our original condition. Normally in Raj Yoga, the word self-transformation is used to imply that you are acting improperly and you should fix that. But in reality, it's nothing to do with that. This Parivartan, this transformation, refers to what has happened to you over time. It's a deterioration of the spirit due to the effect of time. It's like an entropy. It refers to the way that you have become due to decline, to negative karma, and to building protective ego masks, which in the Murli is defined as not your real self, or like not being completely true to the self. Once you capture this through Mehsusta ki Shakti, the power to feel, and once you feel who you are and what you are, then the false self, which was constructed as a way to protect yourself from the difficulties and oppositions that you encounter, well, this false self can be discarded. It's a carapace, it's a mask, you don't need it. Then you can reconstruct yourself as you truly are, and this is what Parivartan is all about. When the word Parivartan is applied to God, it has a different meaning. Because God is immutable, doesn't change. But yet the word Parivartan is applied to God. So what does that mean? When God applies the word Parivartan to himself, he knows who he is. He never loses his sense of self. And because he knows who he is, he vibrates who he is into the atmosphere. Otherwise, God normally is like intangible. But when he vibrates, his vibration he makes himself tangible, so you can pick it up. Parivartan in God, becoming intangible to becoming tangible, causes the world to be restored to its original condition. Just resonance. So he's teaching us to do the same work. But we cannot do that until and unless we become so subtle as to feel with the mind what it is like to be the self in the original state. Once you can feel that, then you can resonate with God, and then it amplifies the whole thing. So this feeling gets amplified and becomes a building block for a renewed or restored world. That means the human society and the nature, both. For the world to be restored to its original condition, first of all, God vibrates what that vibration is, so you can feel it. And he releases a vibration that restores the world, and then you pick that up and amplify that vibration. This makes you into interfacing building blocks that make that transformation take place in a practical way. And this is what is meant by being cooperative with God. You know, sometimes people say they want, like St. Francis, make me an instrument. So this kind of idea, to work as an instrument of God. We use this expression Sahaj Yoga. Sahaj Yoga normally is translated as easy yoga, but it's not that. A Sahaj Yogi does not mean an easy yogi, but it means a person, a soul, souls who are connected in yoga with God, and yet who live in the context of a social environment that prevents this resonance from happening. It's a very dark, heavy atmosphere that stops you from doing this, but you do it anyway. Then he uses the word nimit, nimit the instrument. So nimit is always translated as instruments, but it has other meanings also. Because you can detect God, you are able to replicate his vibration. You are able to bring yourself to that same vibration And this is how you become instrumental for changing the vibration of the world. However, very few people can do this, and there are reasons why. One reason is sanskaras. So sanskaras are your patterns of being that are stronger than your essence of being. So your behaviors and all of these personality traits which do not correspond to the essence of who you are, but they're stronger than that, so they overshadow it. So this is internal opposition from the inside. Another is situations that distract you from your stage of spiritual consciousness through sense perception. That means the things that are happening around you which you don't like have more power than your state of being or your ability to stay in your state of being, because they pull you away from that. So one is the internal opposition, and then you have an external opposition also. A third one is pain. Pain, distress, different kind of suffering will distract you from who you are. And then another one is the difficulties of karmic accounts which come up in your relationship with the other people who are doing this practice. All this prevents you from holding yourself steady in that vibration. So we have to become more powerful than all these powerful influences. So this is why it's a little bit difficult. So it needs patience. You need courage for this, because when you practice holding yourself steady in that vibration, everything and everyone does whatever they can to prevent you and to oppose you. Is it okay? Because if it would be that easy, anybody could do it. You know? So this is the reality. So therefore you need a lot of courage to do this in spite of these oppositions. You have to do this. You need a lot of courage to do this anyway. You have to do this, otherwise you will not acquire the magical power. Magical power is called siddhis. I didn't give you that word, but siddhi is the magical power. So siddhi normally is translated as success, but it also has this meaning of miraculous power or special power, magic. So it is really a magical power that resembles the special abilities of characters like Batman, Superman, Bionic Woman, who have extraordinary superpowers you see in films. But you have to have some kind of special superpower too. So these siddhis are special superpowers that you acquire by recalibrating yourself into your original vibration, which is a replication of the vibration of God that you have detected with your true heart. So, he gives you 3 words which are translated as attitude, vibrations, and words. And this word for attitude is vritti. So, but it's not a very good translation, attitude. You know, I don't know about Dutch, but in French, the word attitude means the position that you take. In English, attitude is like, got a bad attitude, like that. So it means more like this position. So vritti means your angle of perception. It means that you are able to detect what is real, and then you operate according to that. Because you can detect what is real, you can vibrate according to that. And then when you speak, your words emerge from that inner space. So your words are coming from somewhere else. And so they have power. And people say, "What did you say?" Or they feel some extra meaning from what you say. Then the next three words he gives are Nimit, Nirman, and Nirswarat, which are translated as instrument with humility and altruism, but it's a very limited translation. So it actually says that you are able to act as an agent of God and be an interface between God and the material world to build the practical, material, real world through this vibration, and that you will do it without selfish purposes. This is big power. People who get even a whiff of this level of power desire it for selfish purposes, but it is forbidden. You remember Edgar Cayce? Edgar Cayce was a healer from quite some time ago, and he was a very good one. I think he was American, yeah? And so he was very, very strong on this principle that I will not do this for money, I will not do this for fame. And so, but otherwise people do it for fame and money and this and that. So, and he knew this is forbidden, otherwise your power becomes negative. Yeah. So if you use it for selfish purposes or out of ego, then you are denied the magical powers, or they become corrupt and destructive. So you have to deal with that. So when it says in the Murli, this is how you achieve the success you would like to have, it is referring to these magical powers. Some people do a little service which is slightly but not very magical, yet they get impressed with themselves. But God is not impressed by that. He wishes that every child of his would get the point and become free from their ego, detect the vibration of God, resonate with that, amplify that, and transform it into magical powers which are applied to bringing the world back to its original condition. This is destined, so we must do it. On a physical level, the development of the BK organization is taking place well, and there are some Raj Yogis who can detect God and who can hold that resonance, but it's very few. So he needs a larger number to do this in order to build up enough magical power to be applied to the work of bringing the world to its original condition. What is the problem in holding that power or holding that vibration? He says, the problem is your Mehsusta Shakti is weak. As your ability to detect this very fine line between what is right and wrong is not sharp enough. Sometimes you can detect it, but you can't hold it. So you need to intensify this ability to detect this fine line and then to hold it. Otherwise, you cannot fulfill the extraordinary life, which is called the life of a Raj Yogi. So he says, take a look at your life and see how this power of feeling, this Mehsusta Shakti, has arisen. Because it's been coming. Huh? The first thing that everyone receives from God when they first become a Raj Yogi is the feeling that they are souls. And they feel that they are close to God. And they got the point, but they went along with that without continuing to feel it. So you feel it, then you know it, then you assume it's there, but it isn't necessarily. You just talk about it, but you don't have it. That's different. You can only really be that level of Raj Yogi when the feeling of these truths is maintained or sustained. Otherwise, you move forward at an ordinary speed, and it becomes just an intellectual exercise. So this word intense effort maker, which is a translation for Tivra Purusharati, that means that you do what you need to do for yourself at very high speed. So it means that when you detect this difference between right and wrong, and when you detect the vibration of God, then you do what you have to do to raise your level of consciousness at a very high speed, means right away. Some people are able to enter that state of consciousness due to the atmosphere. So when you have very good atmosphere, many people thinking in this way, you can go up there because of the atmosphere. But they lose it as soon as they come out of that atmosphere. So God says, in order to intensify your Mehsusta Shakti, you must be able to feel exactly where you are weak from the inside. That means you are able to detect what is right. However, the influences of the external circumstances that you experience through sense perception neutralizes that internal feeling and forces you to act under that influence. In your worldly life, you have been conditioned to comply with external influences. Social pressures, norms, all this. So then God teaches you how to release yourself from that social conditioning. Circumstances and situations keep coming to you again and again and again, so that you develop the power to resist them. With Mehsusta Shakti, you can recognize and feel what you are. as a soul. And the circumstances that force you into your false ego or your body consciousness, your material consciousness, these are perceived by you as just a test. Just a test. And you don't come under that influence. You transcend it. But without that power, you get nowhere. Need the power. Then Parivartan. So Parivartan, transformation, self-transformation, really means this, that you cannot hold yourself in your original condition unless you have developed Mehsusta Shakti, which is the power to notice the instant when you move away from your truth. Right? You're in your truth, you move away from it, you notice it 10 minutes later. That's too late. Immediately. You can only develop this power when you have a true heart. So God talks later in the Murli about what kinds of hearts different people have. So now check your heart. He is interested in those who feel and understand with a true heart. If you realize in a clever way, this quote-unquote clever way, means that you process your feeling, which is the voice of your conscience, intellectually, and you make it appear as if you have felt and understood, but actually you have not. It's fake. Now, the reason you do this is to look good. And the origin of what we call looking good syndrome is that your power to feel is weaker than your desire to look good. But it has to be made stronger so that you're not motivated by your desire to look good, and you realize that you are not fooling anyone, especially you are not fooling God. There is a third type of what is called realization. You know what is right and what is wrong, but you do not want to look bad, and you want everybody to think of you as a very high quality person, and therefore you kill your conscience. This is equal to the sin of committing suicide, because your conscience, your vivek, is in fact yourself. So if you kill your conscience, you're killing yourself. This kind of suicide allows you to act in a despicable way without detecting that you're doing anything wrong. So there are people like that too. You believe that you are impressive to other people, but you are not fooling everyone. Some, definitely, but you are not fooling everyone, and you are not fooling God. God is not saying anything, but He knows every flutter of your heart. The heart is the part of the soul that can detect whether something is true or not true. If you are true, you will not be a hypocrite. If you are true, you will not pretend that you are something that you are not. If you are true, you will be absolutely real at every level, and you'll be strong enough to handle the consequences of people's reaction to you as someone who is true and real. if you are true, it makes people jealous and they will try to destroy you. Is it okay? You don't mind? But you have to be so strong. You see. Whenever you go against your heart, there is a flutter of the heart that God sees, but that you do not pay attention to. This is because you cannot feel it strongly enough. That means your Mehsusta Shakti is weak. If the heart is not true, you feel it when you do something even slightly against your conscience. Yet, you do not return immediately to your original condition. It means you stay with it. You revert to your ego and your body consciousness, your negative consciousness. If you develop your Mehsusta Shakti, this power of feeling, you will be totally true to yourself, and that will be a very sweet experience. Real, you know. This state of truth in a person makes God say, I will merge you in my eyes. And this is what He's looking for, people of this quality. When you are true and you have a well-developed Mehsusta Shakti, you can amplify other realities. And you can feel that you are truly being used by God and that you are able to enter the avyakt form. The avyakt form means your subtle body like an angelic body. Very pure, white shadow body that can be projected any place and do anything. Through this power of feeling, you can go into an alokik consciousness, means beyond the worldly consciousness, and have extraordinary inner spiritual experiences. You indeed become the embodiment of spiritual knowledge. As this power to feel becomes strong, any weaknesses you have become very clear and visible to you. Then you can easily alter it and not disregard it or allow it to persist, thinking that it doesn't matter. God needs us to be as true as He is, otherwise we cannot work with Him. Then we will return to the world of nirvana as companions of God, not as people who follow behind. And those people who follow behind are described in the mythology as devilish people. These people who are not good, they follow behind. Om Shanti. Did you like that? Pretty amazing material, so we have to where am I and where do I have to be? But I thought I will share this with you because I think it's really pretty extraordinary. To come to that level and reach like that is all done through self-observation. Take a very big loop and look at yourself to be able to see the things that are not quite correct in the diamond. You see the flaws in the diamond through the loop, right? This is such a diamond that can have all the flaws removed by this vibration. All flaws can be removed by this resonance. And then when you are like that, without flaws, without entertaining any negative thoughts, negative stuff will come up, but you immediately take it out. It doesn't belong to you, it doesn't suit you, you don't allow it to stick. So you have to detect it and get rid of it. But it will bother you all the time. Is it okay?